And I realized at that point, I'd never really sat down and thought about what is it I wanted. It was always like this is not working, let me jump to something else. But I didn't try to sit and figure out what it was that was missing.
Hi, welcome to the Connect with Sheila Vitello podcast. I'm an entrepreneur, mom, self-care strategist, mentor, and creator of the Seasons self-care app. I'm committed to helping you reconnect to your purpose, elevate your well-being, and build your version of a happy, successful life. It is interview day on the podcast, and I've been looking forward to having our guest on, who I've been witnessing in the online space for a while, doing beautiful things. Vidya Ramachandran, founder of Warrior Strategy LLC, is a self-leadership catalyzer and recalibration strategist who helps women be their most unapologetically expressive, free, vital, unique, creative selves. Through her unapologetic recalibration framework, Vidya guides women to break free from the societal, cultural, and familial norms or systems that prevent them from thriving. Vidya's a strong advocate for boldly claiming one's values and soul desires, despite others' expectations, accessing mind-body wisdom, and honoring the natural energy cycle to avoid burnout. Her core values are joyous laughter, freedom, connection, and creativity. Before starting her business, she spent almost 2 decades in finance, market research, and strategy in Fortune 100 companies and global health nonprofits. When she's not working, you can find her dancing, listening to music, watching a British, Canadian, or Australian television series, reading a cozy mystery, planning a trip, or continuing to explore her own vibrant, passionate, joyful vitality. Vidya, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you to all the listeners who are tuning in too.
Oh, I love that you have such an eclectic TV series taste, but I think it's so cool. Canadian TV has always been a real fun watch, and it's gotten even better in recent years. What are some of your favorites that you're watching right now of either nation?
Oh yes, I love to say Murdoch Mysteries I've watched every single episode of every single season throughout the last 15, 16 years. So I'm waiting for the new season to be available in the US. And then there's a lot of, it tends to skew towards mystery and, like Midsummer Murders from the UK. There's a new Lucy Lawless mystery. I think it's called My Life is Murder in Australia. And then Brokenwood Mysteries from New Zealand. So there's something about the solving mysteries that that seems to be something that I connect with.
There's a theme, but I feel like you're solving mysteries within yourself all the time, right? As you're connecting to your intuition and all of that. And so what is so cool for me to see is you left more of a strategic, analytical kind of background in your career to move into something that is more kind of body first. So I'd love to hear the story of where you started and how you got to this place.
Yeah, so I will just start by saying it's so funny. I look back and I laugh because I've been a dancer pretty much my entire life. And yet it was only in the last 4 or 5 years that I really started connecting to my body, which like someone on the outside might be like, wait, isn't that the same thing? Isn't that a part of it? But it's so interesting how for some of us, and me specifically, we can get so into our heads and really be living life from that perspective. And I think part of it is my upbringing. Like I grew up in the United States, but in a fairly traditional Indian family where education was very important. Getting a good job that had a stable, progressive career was very important. Getting married and having kids was important. And so really growing up, the only thing I knew was I did not want to be a doctor, which I got that question a lot because my dad was one. But I knew there were these boxes that I need to tick off. And so I started out actually as a science, I have a science degree from undergrad. And then as I was going through my career, I just kept following the more traditional path. And I was doing well. Like, I had great friends from work. I was traveling to a lot of really cool places because I was working in international market research in my mid to late 20s. And I was still doing the dancing and the ice skating and like the hobbies that I enjoyed. But there was just a piece that something was missing.
Mm.
And I just could not put my finger on it. It just was like one day sitting in my cubicle, working on a PowerPoint presentation. I'm sure many can relate or are listening in that work environment. And all of a sudden, I just saw this like my next like 40 years of my life and career to the horizon. And I was like, this isn't working for me. I started to feel really boxed in.
Mm.
But then you would think that I would sit and reflect really at that point. At that point, I didn't really have that many introspective, and I've been doing yoga growing up and a little bit of meditation here and there, but not really that many introspective practices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went with my mind and said, okay, what is the best next step I can take? And especially from my culture, like education is always, something to go by. So I actually applied and got accepted to a PhD program in marketing. And then I thought, you know what, this is it. This is my life's purpose. It fills a lot of professional and personal goals. But I will have to say, I think what I didn't realize or I didn't admit to myself until many years later is that there was also something tied to like, oh, if I can get the PhD, get the doctor title, it brings in all this extra like value and validation to me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe my family will be more proud since I didn't go the doctor, like the medical doctor route. Maybe I'll feel like I'm on par with my friends and, classmates from undergrad who are doing phenomenal, compelling, interesting things. And I started that. And then within 16 months, I knew like each day, I started out so energized, so excited. Like when we start, we have that
Yeah.
like, yeah, very
I feel like that a lot, Vidya. I love starting things.
Yeah. We start with that spring energy. And then 16 months in, like it was so subtle, I didn't even notice it until like I got to a point where every day just felt like drudgery. It just felt so frustrating, felt just really heavy. And I was starting to cry more nights. Like I noticed like, oh, I was crying more nights than I wasn't. I was feeling like I dug myself into a hole and I couldn't get out of it. And like, what do I do at this point?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened is all of the external, the thoughts and all of that came in where, okay, now I have to tell people like this isn't working for me. What does that mean? And really recognizing for myself, like weighing, okay, what is it the disappointment that I might feel in myself or other people for not having made it, like having failed at this? Because that's what it was for me personally. Like I had made such a big thing leaving the corporate world. I was like, I'm going into academia. Everyone was like, you're gonna do amazing, do all these amazing things. And then it was like, wait, now I have to go back to these same people and tell them I failed. Like, I want to take a step back. And so there was just a lot of really trying to detangle what leaving would mean for me from if I stayed, it was still going to be like pushing a boulder up the mountain for who knows how long, because you have to get through your dissertation, you have to get through, like that would have been like my late 40s, maybe, and I was 32 at the time.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot. My PhD friends, oh my goodness. Like it's a calling. If you can complete that thing, it's really a calling and you love it. And even though you love it though, going through it, there's so much you don't love because it's a huge commitment. So for you to recognize it, that's powerful. So what happened?
Yeah. And then what I will say the turning point for me then was this is why I find community so important, because it was a friend of mine, like our trusted circles who know us, who
Yes.
can tell us like it is, call us out on things lovingly. I was sobbing on the phone to a friend of mine. And she was actually like driving home from dropping off someone at the airport. And she's like, one, why did you wait so long to call me and tell me this is what was going on? But two, she's like, it's like I don't think the question is whether or not you stay in the program. I think it's pretty clear. You're miserable. It's a clear sign that this is not a fit for you. The question is, what do you want to do next?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized at that point, I'd never really sat down and thought about what is it that I wanted to do? Like, what is it that I wanted? It was always like this is not working. Let me jump to something else. Oh, that's not working. Let's jump to something else. And
Right.
then this point is going okay, but there's still something missing. But I didn't try to sit and figure out what it was that was missing. I jumped to something else. And so
Yeah.
now at this point, like it was again that decision point. But did I sit and contemplate? No. It would be so much nicer to say that was the key pivot point, and then that's what, supercharged me to get to where I am today. But it was a lot more of a circular, two steps forward, one step back, as I slowly started really focusing on what are the practices that can help me, the more internalized practices
Mm-hmm.
that can help me get clarity on what it is that I wanted. Because at the time I was like, okay, I failed and everyone else is doing this and I'm not. And I took two steps back. And so those were what I was trying to figure out how to navigate. And again, still from my head
Yes.
versus, over the next, the last 10 years, like slowly starting to get comfortable with connecting to my body and using that as a foundation for my introspection and reflection and all of that is
Man,
how I got to this.
as
Where
you're sharing that, it's like, okay, the start of your story, I'm all and then as you move towards dealing with the body, it's like a
yeah,
collective relaxation, it's like, it just feels true. And for some people, leaning into their body and leaning into those practices that you're going to share with us too, that may lead them to a PhD program, that may lead them to academia, that may lead them to marketing, right? We're all different. The question is, though, and you said it, getting quiet to be with yourself to really figure it out. And it's like that question of, well, why didn't I? Why didn't I? It's uncomfortable being in the unknown. It really
yes,
is. And yet it's so, so important, right? Children in the womb are in the dark. Plants, like seeds, are in the dark beneath the earth before they grow. And so our ideas can often be in the dark, but we need to get in the dark with them. We need to like climb under the covers with them and say, okay,
yes,
let's feel into it. And often it is not a head first thing. And I've learned that too. And I feel like we've kind of been learning in parallel
yeah.
over the years recently. One other thing I want to touch on, and then I really want to hear, okay, then what happened?
Mhm.
You said something that I think so many people can identify with. And I know I can. And that is, you made that big exit from your career to go into your PhD program. And you thought, oh no, what are they going to think because I failed? And I want to tell you the first thing that comes to mind of if I were in that position, like if I was witnessing you do that, would be like, good for you. Bravo for changing your mind and for knowing, because you don't know until you take the step into it. Bravo for being brave enough to leave the safe, secure thing to go into the land of the unknown. And then to be like, okay, now I know. Now I'll never wonder what if. That is
Yeah,
so empowering. So I would be saying, yay. And needless to say, myself in a similar circumstance, I probably would feel the same though, because it's so baked into the way we are because of how we've been, molded by the people who come before us. So I
exactly.
just want to honor you for that. I want to
Thank
honor you for
you.
taking that step.
I
And what
really
happened?
do wish this was something that we were allowed to practice, explore more from a younger age.
Yeah. Like we do when we're really little. We can practice, fall down, fail all the time. It's great. It's all good for you. You'll be fine. It's all good. And
Yeah.
somehow, I don't know. It's like, grow up, figure it out, get it together. It's like, no, I never want to have it together because that's boring.
Yeah.
I really want to, like, yes, I want to have some things together. Come on, like, let's be real. But I want to be trying new things. I want to be challenging myself. I want to see, like, what's on the other side of something that I don't know. And that always is going to involve messing up a little bit. But getting
Yeah.
messy can be fun. I mean, hey, we got to finger paint when we were little, if we were
Yeah.
lucky, right? In class.
Exactly. Exactly. But I will say, like, I think the one thing that was, I remember at one point, as soon as I made the decision, I wanted to, I was going to leave. And I will say, like, my program, they were so lovely. They were like, we can help you through finding a research topic that will take you to dissertation. And they were so willing to work with me. But I think at that point I knew, okay, this could be the next 10, 15 years of my life. And is this really what I wanted to do?
Yeah.
And it was a very clear no. But then the first thing was like, yes, my friend told me, what is it that I want to do next? But I need health insurance.
Yeah.
I need a job
Right.
that has health insurance. And so that's how I think a lot of us, I have found ourselves in some of these things, is like we feel like it's out of our control because we don't have the space. And that's a systemic
Mhm.
societal challenge, especially here in the United States. But I think that's where, if we could teach ourselves or practice some of these things early on, or even from now, right? Even if you don't have anything, like any practices, like start now, so
Mhm.
that when you are in those periods, you can get through the reflection and the connection piece faster.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. And so, what did you do for that little gap time where you were like, okay, I'm going to figure this out and I need to feed myself and I need
Yeah.
to keep the lights on? What
Yeah.
was what was the middle ground place that you?
Yes. So I knew I wanted to move to a city, and because I was in very rural Pennsylvania, I was at Penn State, um, and so I was like, you know what, market research. It's what I know. It's what I'd been doing for the 5 years before I'd come to Penn State, and so I found a job in a different industry, but in the Philadelphia area. And I was like, okay, I'm making money. I'm, health insurance. I'm in a city. I'm doing something I know. But within 6 months, not even 6 months, I think it might have been 3 months, I started searching for, I was like, there's got to be something else. I'm back where I was. I left for a reason. What's going on? And then I came across a Facebook post from a college friend of mine who had gone through a very similar journey of, like, she had gone to med school, dropped out, and she came across a personal development program. I had never heard of personal development before this. So I'm at like 32, 33 years old. And I reached out to her. She was living in India at the time, and we had to, like, get on Skype. And I was like, what are you talking about? There's something about this spoke to me. And we had a conversation. She connected me to her coach. And I talked to her. The coach was based in New York City. And something was like, I think this is it. I think, I'd gotten a bonus for, signing on to work. So I'm like, half my bonus went to paying for the coach. And that's when I first started. Like, I was like, I need somebody to teach me some of these practices and ways to, like, really think of things or contemplate things that obviously I'm not able to do on my own. And so that's probably the start. I mean, I continued to work in market research, and then I, was starting to get closer, and I knew I didn't want to stay in the financial services industry. And global health was something that I'd always been passionate about, especially child health. And so I moved to DC. I was doing some contract work in global health organizations and got to travel a little bit again. Went to Ethiopia and Liberia, which was so eye-opening. But again, it was like these little steps, and it would help fill in the picture where I was like, something's still missing. I don't know what it is. And at that time is also when I started dance again. I had taken a break from dance. I started dance performing with a group, and it really helped me. There were some challenges there that where I had really connect to my emotions, and we were doing like dramas, and things that I came up with and had to have some of my own breakthroughs around,
Right.
emoting and really connecting, that also then helped me step, things, felt like it was coming from different directions, slowly piecing together like pieces of a puzzle. And then as I was going through that is when I was like, you know what, I think I just started helping people. I started out my own business as a career coach because people had been coming to me. They're like, you've changed so many things, like
Yeah.
20 different changes in your life. How did you pick yourself up and move to the next thing? And so I started that, I started hearing from people, and then I was like, oh, maybe this could be a business. And I don't have anyone in my immediate family who's a business owner, entrepreneur, or anything. So it was very different, even explaining. But at that point, I think I had gotten a little bit more confident in my own, like, this is what I want, and
Mhm.
holding that sacred.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started the first iteration of my business journey.
Oh, that is so amazing. See, it doesn't come all at once. It comes in pieces at times. Sometimes it can come all at once, but it's just those little pieces over time and you get that deep knowing. And so I know that you have a specific framework that you use to help people reframe their failures and to
Yes.
really like break that comparison cycle. Can you share that with us briefly? I'd love.
Yes, yes. So this is all within the first pillar of my broader unapologetic recalibration framework, because I really do think we need to kind of start the introspective exploration and get really clear on what it is that we want. And so some of this has come from trial and error, and me, for example, having to explain to other people about the changes that I've made in job interviews. But one of the things that I started, one of the pieces is questions that I start to ask myself is, what is one thing I learned from that experience that I can take to the next decision, choice, or experience?
Mhm.
And then what is one reason that this wasn't a fit for me?
Mhm.
And so those two, by starting with that, at least like we're starting to build evidence in our mind that, okay, I still got something out of this.
Yes. Nothing is wasted. Just like in anywhere in nature, nothing is wasted. Like the debris falling from the trees gets composted into the earth. The dead flowers compost into the earth. It's all good, right? And then all the messy, gross stuff gets composted into the earth too. It's all
Exactly.
got a purpose. I love it so much.
Exactly. And then the other piece is more of a mindset shift, is like, as I started having to do this, I started realizing, like, what if everything in my life is just an experiment? Like, what if I just saw everything as an experiment?
Yeah.
And that became one of my key philosophies in my work today, is like,
Yeah.
nothing is a failure because life is a series of experiments.
So good. I it's like I know this, I hear this, I read about this, but the way you just said that, like that's going to become a new mantra for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome.
So good.
It's something that I found, like, because if it's an experiment, you're always learning from it, even if it doesn't turn out the way you thought it would.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. And so now in your work, like who would you say are those people that you find yourself working with the most these days? Are they kind of like the archetype of who you were?
Yes, they tend to be the archetype of who I was. A lot of times they come to me because there was, and it still predominantly seems to be career, but not always, that is something's not working. They're like, hey, I was on this path. I thought this is what I wanted, and I feel like I'm hitting a wall and I don't know what to do. And I mean, I'm open, but I really don't know what to do or if I can do anything.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it's interesting because I've worked with women who they sometimes come in thinking their job is the issue, but then by recalibrating just different aspects, the job kind of serves its purpose
Yeah.
so that they can live the way that they want with their family, with their relation, with the other things that are important to them. And so it does tend to be women in like their, mid 30s to like early 50s who've just been like, yeah, I, something's got to change, right? Like this, and now I am realizing that I have the freedom to make a different choice if I can.
And how beautiful that you get to be that mirror for them and that safe space where they can choose to feel that way. They actually get to feel that it's okay to feel that way. It's okay that they're not satisfied. Because I
Yeah,
think sometimes we do stay stuck in a lot of different things, whether it be careers or relationships that really we just don't feel like we can change it. And we feel like
yeah,
we've made the choice, we have to stick there. But really, we're humans, we're always growing and changing. So we need to be open to it. So it's great that you provide that safe space for those women. And
yes.
I would love for you to share, what's coming up for you next, that how can people work with you and where can they go find some of your goodness and what's coming up?
Yes, thank you. Yes. So, if you've liked what you've been hearing, I would love to connect with you. So, in a more like a I have a slate of different ways. The word is not coming to me. It's MYRIAD. I can't pronounce it. It's a bunch of different ways. Let's say that. Um, I have, my website is vidyawarrior.com. That's VIDYAWARRIER. I have a few resources on there as well, the free resources that you can check out. If you found this topic interesting, like talking about failure, I do have a PDF, downloadable PDF that kind of visually lays out some of the aspects that will help you alchemize your failures into fuel. And then also included in that is what I've been calling my recalibration code. So a lot of just these I statements, like one of them being like, I know nothing is a failure, as reminders for us as we are moving along with, our lives, that we can really stand in that unapologetic, as that unapologetic version of ourselves. And then I also, if you want to see how recalibration might be something of something you want to explore, or talk about any of this, what we talked about more specifically in your circumstances, I am very happy to have a 30-minute offer, a free 30-minute consultation to the listeners of this podcast. Just if you choose that, just make sure in the notes or when you sign up, you say that you found me through the podcast, so I know.
Oh, fantastic. So yeah, put connect with Sheila Botelho in there and then she'll know, oh, that was the episode.
Exactly. And then I am starting to offer workshops, intro level body connection workshops, so every couple of months. So the best way to hear about those would be to connect or join my email newsletter community, because I share a lot about the journey that I'm still on, stuff that I've learned, like experiments I'm trying out, and just kind of what's going on in my world that I'm sharing and offering. So there's that. And then, yeah, I'm also on Instagram, but I'm not as active. So there is that. Also, it's at vidya.r.warrior. And yeah, you can connect with me there as well. Just keep in mind right now, I'm not as active.
Vidya, that is amazing. And I'm so grateful that you're offering these various ways for people to work with you, to be able to get that clarity, to be able to feel really that freedom and connection that all of us get to have, and to just show them that it's possible through your story. So I hope people reach out to you. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I so enjoyed chatting with you. I always love your energy. So I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to come on.
Oh, that means a lot. Thank you so much. And to
Thank
our
you.
listeners, I just want to say this story gives you permission to really take a look at your life, take a look at where you're at. Maybe everything's working awesome. And then there's always those times in our life where things can shift. And that's okay. That's part of it. And so let this story be an example to you of how you can also take that space to go within and really find the thing that you're meant to be doing in your life, your relationship, whatever it may be. We would love to hear what landed for you. So please do shout us out on Instagram or Facebook or wherever we are. And eventually We will see your message. We just love to hear and have that conversation. But thank you for listening. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Big blessings.